Good evening and welcome everyone. On behalf of the co-sponsors, I want to welcome everyone for coming out to a timely and important panel. My name is Doug Castle. I'm a professor of law at Notre Dame Law School in a place called South Bend, Indiana, far across the sea. One of my colleagues from South Bend is our Associate Dean for International Graduate Programs, Roger Alford, who is down in the front row. Another Notre Dame colleague on the faculty here is Suzanne Spears, who's also a practicing lawyer here in London. And I have the great pleasure and privilege of announcing that the director of the Notre Dame London Law Program, effective July 1st, is Mike Lano, who is sitting right over there, member of the UN Expert Working Group on Business and Human Rights. Not a coincidence that he will be our new London law director. Our panel tonight will be chaired, as you know, by Robert McCorquodale, who is the head of one of the co-sponsoring organizations, the British Institute of International and Comparative Law, and also a professor at the University of Nottingham and somebody who has worked many years in the field of business and human rights. To his left is Rae Lindsay of the law firm of Clifford Chance, also very experienced in the field. To her left is Elodie of another of the co-sponsoring organizations, the Business and Human Rights Resource Center. And to her left is Carlos Lopez of the International Commission of Jurists in Geneva, who has written some of the most important papers in this field. Not seated at the table because he was not able to secure a visa to come to this fair land on time, but who we hope will be seated in the computer screen up there on the wall, is Luis Espinosa Salas, the Ecuadorian diplomat who has been the principal ball carrier on the treaty process on business and human rights since the beginning. We're hoping that all the technology will work and that he will be able to join us in a few moments, but we'll ask your patience in the event he's not. The program is scheduled to go until about 7:30. Robert will direct the panelists as he chooses to do for a bit, and at some point we will open the floor up for questions. There will be a roving floor mic for those of you who may wish to pose any questions. We hope to end at about 7:30, at which point there will be a reception for any who may be interested, and I think it will be in the room downstairs. I don't see it set up in the back of this room. And that should go until about 8:30 for those of you who wish to stay and mingle with the stars. So without any more introduction, Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think Doug deserves a round of applause. He's done amazing.
No, he doesn't, because he forgot to also thank our other co-sponsor, the University of Essex Business and Human Rights Program.
Thank you very much. Doug has already introduced the distinguished panel, and hopefully at some point Lewis will appear. The context, as you know, is that in 2011, the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights was adopted by consensus by the UN Human Rights Council, and has been basically the main document which has been dominant in this area and led to a whole range of changes of other international documents. But then there was a sense to which it should go further, that there should be a treaty on business and human rights. A whole range of reasons led to this, some degree of dissatisfaction that things are moving too slowly, states were adopting or implementing the guiding principles, sense of difficulty of access to remedies for victims, and a broader sense to which actually the idea that of lawyers that really treaty is the only way to ensure there's proper obligations here. So that's the context, and the UN the UN Human Rights Council passed a resolution to create an open-ended working group on looking at a business and human rights treaty. It's had 2 sessions so far, with a 3rd one due in this October. So that's the context. What I'm proposing to do is slightly differently, is to have an interactive kind of engagement, so that instead of having each person presenting for like 20 minutes, they're allowed 3 minutes. And I'll ask a series of questions and get responses and then bounce out from that. So hopefully the idea is to be a little bit more engaging and the sense to which it will prompt you with a variety of questions. And then obviously at the time we'll have, at the end of that, we'll have a time for general discussion. So I'm going to begin really with the question maybe all of you is asking it all. Why have a treaty at all when you have the guiding principles? In Lewis's absence, I'll start with you, Elodie.
Thanks, Robert. So, as you were saying, the UN guiding principles, they were endorsed unanimously by the Human Rights Council. Is it better?
That's right.
So the UN guiding principles, they were endorsed unanimously by the... Can you hear? No?
Alex, do you want to try yours?
Yeah, that works.
Can you hear? Yeah. So the UN guiding principles were endorsed unanimously by the Human Rights Council, and they're also followed more and more by governments and companies. And the problem for proponents of the treaty is that they are not legally valid. So by having a treaty on business and human rights, they hope that it would give teeth to those soft law principles. And proponents of the treaty were also saying that they deplore the lack of effective prevention and access to remedy, and the fact that the UN guiding principles were taken a bit too slow to be implemented by states. So for our organization, what we had noticed was really for states, the slow uptake on the UN guiding principles. So far, there are only 13 countries that have published national action plans on business and human rights to implement the guiding principles. And for the companies, we also saw that there was a big gap between leaders and laggards. So after more than 5 years after the adoption of the guiding principles, what we saw was mostly action in terms of reporting, but also policies at SME level. It was really limited to Western headquarters. And those who support a treaty, they also see it as a way to create a level playing field. So at the moment, there's a discrepancy of standards between various countries, and the treaty could be a solution to this. So, for instance, in terms of extraterritoriality, mandatory due diligence for companies, some also said that it could actually offer some predictability, and it would be a tool for companies to help them to manage risk, because they would have more clarity on which standards they have to respect in a universal manner.
Thanks very much. And Rae, what about you? What do you see the main concerns about having a treaty at all?
Well, one of the main concerns would be that potentially it would undermine UNGP, which was seen as being a huge achievement in 2011 in articulating the international framework. They may be soft law principles, but they're very firmly founded in accepted international law at the time in terms of the articulation of state duties and corporate responsibilities and the 3 pillars. I think there's a concern that it would either undermine the UNGP, which has been successful in driving a lot of corporate behaviour in the form of preventing and addressing human rights abuses. There's a long way to go, but they've certainly, in terms of achieving consensus across the board, been very successful in that respect, and have broad international support at the state, corporate and civil society levels. The treaty, therefore, could be a distraction, but I think with a proper focus and an articulation of what the elements would be and how it would operate, it could serve a useful purpose in certain areas, but right now there's a complete lack of clarity around exactly what the treaty is intended to be. I think it would be important to engage, articulate what the treaty, the objectives are, what are the ills that are intended to be addressed by the treaty, and have broad engagement with all constituencies around the development of any treaty in order to ensure that it actually was fulfilling a positive purpose and that it was going to operate consistently with UNGP, not undermine it, but actually support the achievement of that framework.
Thanks very much. And Carlos, what's your view on this? What do you see as the main concerns about having a treaty?
I think, Rae, thanks Roy first, and thanks to the organizers for inviting us and organizing this event. I think Rae has pointed out one of the main concerns, and I agree with that. I was in 2014 when the Council adopted a resolution establishing this intergovernmental process in Geneva. And all sorts of objections were there put on the moment of the table. One of them, of course, that the treaty will undermine the UNGPs. The consensus will be finished. Some companies even threatened with withdrawing their support to the UNGPs. Some countries can tell me, "Oh, the sky will fall over our heads, and that's the end of the war. Forget about cooperation. Everything will be undone. We will go back 10 years, back to the departure clause. All progress will be basically eliminated." Well, 4 years, no, 14, nearly 4 years now down the road, nothing of that has happened. Nothing of that has happened. And 3 years or more now in the process, those who keep saying that there is an undermining of the guiding principles or the danger of conflicts have never elaborated any ways in which there should be any or could be any conflict of the kind. But just mentioning there will be undermining or there will be some conflicts, it is not enough. We need to elaborate. We have to say why, how, where is the conflict, so that we try to mitigate it. So I don't see any. So I think there is enormous enthusiasm, but I see there are challenges, of course. And all the challenges in relation to complementarity, in addition to complementarity with the guiding principle, is the question of whether we will manage to get a treaty that will be effective enough. And that passes by the question of it will be agreeable to a good number of countries to ratify. And that depends on the contents, that depends on the scope for the final draft. It's not easy, it's a long process, but I see it's a challenge. And we, as other actors, we are committed to work on that. So we hope, of course, that the rest of the states and our business enterprises in particular will come sit around the table. We had a seminar this afternoon, and someone said, well, we need to bring business around the table unless we have all the stakeholders sitting around the table to discuss, then we will not succeed in getting this treaty. Well, I have to tell you one thing. When another organization here, the IDH, we've been trying for months to invite business enterprises to Geneva, to come to Geneva, discuss about the treaty. I didn't want to come. Only 2 have accepted so far. For months, really.
And what was the reason for not accepting? Have you got feedback, or they just say we don't have anything to do with this?
One of the reasons for not accepting, I'll tell you, it's just a couple of us, only one, is that they are engaged in other processes, they say, in multi-stakeholder processes or others similar to that, and they will undermine the position or they will damage transparency or confidence or trust with the other partners if they engage with a treaty or another process that may be seen as focusing too much on accountability and sort of things.
Very interesting. Thank you. Now, in the absence of Lewis, I'm going to come back to you, Carlos. In October, as I said, the Intergovernmental Working Group has its next session. What is kind of on its agenda, do you see so far?
Well, the main issue in the agenda is the start of the discussion on a text or draft with elements of the treaty. The mandate of the Intergovernmental Working Group says that in the third session, in October 2017, there will be the third session, the meeting should start negotiating on a text of draft elements. So the chairperson rapporteur of the intergovernmental working group is in charge of producing that text. I understand they are consulting, the Ecuadorian ambassadors consulting with a number of delegates, actors, NGOs, civil society in general. And I think we are all expecting to have that text before us to comment and to take position. But that's in the agenda in principle, but the other point of the agenda is kind of interrogation. It's whether some European countries and some companies will finally, at this stage, come to the room and truly engage on the substance of this, as opposed to just being in the room, listening, and showing to the others that yes, we are here, but actually we are not here.
Certainly, my experience, I was involved as a kind of independent advisor on it. A number of states just either turned up and were, as you say, not engaging or didn't turn up at all. And certainly there weren't a great deal of corporations represented.
But our corporations have standing to
Good.
participate
Excellent.
in the working group discussions, because my understanding is you have to be a state or a civil society organisation to have that consultant status.
That's a really good question. Part of the difficulty is that the process is one which falls within the kind of Geneva human rights avenue, so that someone like me has to be fitted in somewhere because I don't fit within any of the kind of ECOSOC links. Carlos, how would you get companies to be able to be present?
The first thing that has to happen is that they agree to come, and they agree there should be a treaty. Because to engage on the substance of something, you have to agree that that process is there, it's legitimate, and it's valuable.
I think that saying to a company is a treaty of good ideas, pretty open-ended question.
Yeah.
And I haven't been aware of invitations for them being sent out of companies knowing that they would have any standing to participate. Now, certain corporate organisations do, so the Institute of Employers and the ICT, I believe. The difficulty being that unless you know what is proposed in a treaty, it's very difficult, even for organisations and companies, to take a position on what that might be. And equally, with a whole variety of corporates, very difficult to get a coherent business view on something. And without some kind of text or an idea of what the treaty is designed to address, it's impossible for those sectors to engage.
But they will have it now. For October, they will have
And
a
the other
text.
difficulty with that, turning into a long conversation, the difficulty with that is there's a text being produced without any agreement on what it's supposed to achieve, what the broad elements might be that are diplomatically acceptable. It seems odd to me that you present an intergovernmental working group with a text that they haven't participated in creating or drafting, and then ask them what they think of it and whether it will work. It's extraordinary.
But then we have a problem of understanding them, because if they don't want to participate in the process, then they complain not having been consulted because they were not in the room. So I don't know.
Except there are other examples of treaty engagement where there have been much more. The drafting of regulation, indigenous people was much more open in terms of its engagement. The approach in the Disabilities Convention and that. But maybe that's further down the track, Ray. Maybe that's once there is a clearer.
I suppose my point is there's no agreement between the states who are involved in the working group as to what the treaty should be. That would seem to me to be a fundamental starting point before you start to engage with business or civil society.
But there were also businesses that were invited to speak in some of the sessions of the intergovernmental working group. I think maybe the second one, and for instance, there was Sodexo who made, at least for us, the civil society, quite a strong statement about access to remedy and the fact that for them, all companies should be covered by the treaty, because Otherwise, there would be an imbalance, and this could lead to lack of access to remedy for some victims, and that would be kind of counterproductive to what you want to achieve with the treaty. So I think it's just the fact that some companies are ready to make public statements and not others, and that's why what Carlos was saying, it's a shame they don't want to engage in even private conversations, at least in the start.
While you're speaking, Elodie, one of the great aspects of the Pieces of Human Rights Resource Centre is you gather a whole range of commentary and all the rest of it, like on this treaty. There's a whole range of potential elements of this treaty, from what human rights are included, the extent to which business enterprises, jurisdiction, enforcement, a whole range of things. What do you see? Choose one. What do you see as, you think, the major concern, the major sort of issue that should be resolved by this treaty?
So there, which rights should be covered by the treaty, but after the discussion we had this afternoon, it's been more confusing now, because there was broader agreement that all human rights should be covered, because when you just speak about gross violations, for instance, then the counter argument would be it doesn't cover most human rights violations that are a bit smaller, they don't amount to gross violations. But then when we were having this discussion around this afternoon with other people, then when you think a bit too much about it, there was the issue of how do you tell states that these are the rights that should be covered. It will depend on which conventions they have signed up to, etc. So I think, you know, it should be the main issues, but yeah, there's no consensus.
Okay, and Rae, which one would you choose as the one of most contention for you? Choose one.
Well, it's not a point of contention, but I just there are already many human rights treaties out there that are not adequately enforced by states, or states don't meet their current obligations. There hasn't been, as I understand, a complete mapping of what there currently is that just isn't enforced, or what treaties there are that say have protocols that are available for states to sign up to that can actually address a lot of these issues, and therefore where the gaps actually arise. So I think some coherence around that. I think it'd be interesting to also look at where there are areas of emerging potential policy convergence. So, for example, the recent Council of Europe work, which talks about jurisdiction in the context of parent and subsidiary companies. You know, is there some consensus forming of what that might look like? And similarly, the work that the OHCHR has done in the field of access to remedy, which was a very detailed study which identified areas where there are barriers to access to remedy and made recommendations and guidelines to states of how to address those. Now, those would seem to me to indicate areas where there's actually been an identification of where there are gaps or difficulties that could actually be addressed, and some positive work towards how that could be done.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you're saying something needs a bit more mapping, so there's coherence. Carlos.
Yeah, we have had 2 years of discussion about these issues already. So one of the issues that I see under contention is the scope of the treaty we discussed this afternoon. Because in principle, in the resolution establishing the intergovernmental process, the treaty should focus basically on conduct by transnational corporations and other business enterprises that have transnational activities. Many people see that as a very reduced scope and shouldn't be, and I think there is a good argument to expand that. I see that as a very contentious because it's part of the mandate so far, and to modify the mandate could be problematic in the absence of political will, political agreement. And political agreement is exactly what we.
So where do you think the disagreement is on this issue?
Well, where I think, I mean, it's, you know, most of transnational, I heard some delegates saying that most transnational operations come from Western-based companies or investors. And therefore, a treaty that will be focusing only on transnational operations or business enterprises who have an unfair focus on only Western companies and investments. And so I think that's a fair argument. But that argument doesn't take into account that also a number of other companies and investors that come from developing countries or emerging economies, just China, or say like India, or isn't I think in practice, there will be coverage also of transnational countries will be involved. I see that there is an important point to discuss about coverage of conduct by business enterprises that don't have transnational operations, because in terms of criminal liability, for instance, it would be unacceptable from the rule of law point of view to establish criminal liability for crimes that are committed transnationally, but not for those that are committed locally.
And of course, some are state-owned enterprises. Now, Elodie, anything else you think that you mentioned about the issues of which human rights? What are some of the other issues you think need to be considered by the treaty?
So just to go back to what we mentioned earlier about the involvement as well of companies, because that's something we saw already that the business and human rights community doesn't agree on. So you have, well, first the business themselves haven't been really vocal about what they think about the treaty publicly, but you have other business organizations who are telling us that they see it as an added value for businesses to be involved in the conversation, or at least the consultation, because they could bring like an insider's point of view to see what elements could be effective in practice within a company, which sometimes when you have discussions at the UN level or more policy discussion, then the practice is not taken into account. And also others tell us that they would see it, the process as biased if companies are not involved. But then when you ask the major part, the majority of NGOs, for them, they really see as companies that shouldn't be involved because they would be influencing the drafting process. It's supposed to be an instrument regulating them, so they could influence it in their favor. There might be conflict of interest. So when you talk about civil society, really what they see is victims, human rights defenders that should be really involved at the center of the treaty process, and the treaty should be create an enabling environment for them.
And does that follow from that the treaty could apply directly to companies? Are you hearing any arguments to that effect?
So this is, again, really divided. So we know that it will apply to states. And then when you just try to dig a bit deeper, it's really the question of some people are really sure you can have companies, that you can have disputes apply to companies, and we have the argument of investment treaties, for instance, where companies can sue a state through the investor-state mechanism. So we have heard both things. Some people say we should take an innovative approach and have companies also do business duties, and others are more strict and say states should only have the obligations, but then the problem is also enforcement of the treaty if states don't do anything.
Okay, we'll come back. Now, Lewis, I believe you're now with us. Is that correct?
Try this one.
Lewis, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Perfect. Yes, let me see.
Can you wave if you can hear?
He did. You need to take off the mute.
Who's got it?
His mute is on. Tell him to take his mute off.
Lewis, do you mind taking the mute off your screen, please? No one can hear you.
All right. It's on mute.
It's on mute.
It's on mute.
So you could speak, so you need to, so that we can hear you.
Yeah, you might have to call him.
Yeah, I'm gonna call.
You can go to someone else for me.
Okay, juggling these things. Rae, back with you. You raised, I think, the really helpful point about the difficulties in this treaty and mapping. One of those is its potential conflict between states' obligations on investment.
Your machine is on mute. Can you unmute your machine?
Okay.
Good, it's unmuted now.
Okay, well, I'll finish the question. All right. So Lewis, I'm asking a question to Rae about the need for mapping. One of the big issues is how could this treaty potentially conflict with states' obligations under investment treaties or trade treaties? How do you see that being a potential problem?
I think it would be vital in order to make this treaty work to take account of all of those considerations and not to have an exclusively human rights focus, because it has to be operationalized within the context of the fact that this is all about how both states and corporates do business and how you protect and respect human rights in that environment. So I think it has to take account of that network of international obligations and rights and create a coherent system, having identified what we're attempting to achieve, where the gaps are and what can effectively be done. And I think it will be, it is important to have the business voice in there because they are operating in these areas. There will be practical issues, and some of the proposals that are on the table advocate for the deconstruction of certain things like, say, the corporate veil, which may need some adaptation in order to take account of a changed environment or the imposition of new kinds of duties or regulation. But you can only understand what the implications of that and whether they're the good and the bad outcomes if you take the people who work within those constructs, their views and their experiences into account, and also the parts of government used to dealing with the regulation in those areas.
Which will often be parts of government which are not engaged with human rights and all that. Okay, thank you, that's helpful. Look, I'm going to try both. Lewis, can you wave and speak if you can hear me, please?
Oh, no.
It's just muted again.
Okay, now
You try again, Lewis.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? No?
We can't hear. Does anyone read lips?
No, the other way.
He's not going to be able to see you.
He's just mute. That's right.
Can you
Now, can you hear me?
Please, I can't
Hello?
speak to you at the same time. So Doug is going to text you, I suspect. I'm sorry.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
He's unmuted now.
So you should be able to speak now, Lewis.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
Volume on the TV.
You try that.
Can you try again now, please, Lewis?
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? The microphone is not on mute, I'm sure. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
So we're still trying.
Yeah, I don't think we're.
Is it not going to be any better?
Can you hear us, Louis?
Hello?
You have it unmuted.
It's unmuted, yeah.
It's unmuted.
I don't think we can just give him a call.
I'm really sorry, Lewis. We'll have to do with your either sign language or he is like my best endeavors. We can't actually engage with you. I'm really sorry. You tried all this
Can't you speak on the phone and attach the phone to your microphone?
On my phone.
That's right. Foster uses.
Hello?
At least we're going to try a backup plan. We can't get
Yes.
on the computer, but what I'm going to, if you'll stay on your phone. Hello? Stay on your phone.
Yes, yes, I listen. I'm listening.
My phone through the microphone here, and we'll see if that works.
Perfect.
Okay, Lewis, can you now hear me?
Yes, it's better. Now it's better.
Oh, that's not good. He's speaking in the speaker. Ask him to speak into his own telephone without the speaker.
Lewis,
Okay, okay,
And then
no problem. Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
We're unfortunately getting feedback from you.
Maybe at this end. Ah,
Okay, can you try again? Can you hear that? I'm sorry, I think I just think that this method is not going to work. Okay. So you speak now. You speak now, and we'll see what happens. Seema, can you hear down the back? No. Okay. Any other suggestions? Anyone?
ah. I did turn it down earlier, so. No, it's all the way up.
Okay, I'm going to try again. If you could just introduce yourself and we'll see whether that works.
Yes, well, hello everyone. My name is Luis Espinosa Salas. I'm Minister of the Mission, the Permanent Mission of Ecuador here in Geneva.
Yes. Hey, success! Fantastic. Thank you very much. We've got this top here. I'm going to know which microphone. Okay, thank you so much for your patience. And apologies that the British action did not allow you to have a visa to turn up here. Now, if you could just summarize for the participants here, what do you see as the main purpose of the open-ended working group on business and human rights, and also the what you'd like to try and achieve in this next session in October? Thank you.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy that I'm able to contact you via video conference. Well, the main purposes I think are quite clear. We can summarize different topics. The first one is to avoid, to the extent possible, impunity from violations of human rights coming from transnational corporations and other business enterprises. Evidence shows that this is one of the main problems when we have victims of violations, which have been under a difficult situation confronting or facing transnational corporations' abuse. So this is one of the first aims of this project. The second one, I think, is to put some balance in the balanced relationship, the balanced situation of protection of the private sector, the corporate sector. If you compare to the lack of protection to the victims or potential victims of abuses of human rights by the corporate sector, while companies have usually a very big armor of legal, economic, and even political tools to use in order to protect their interests. Communities and people, individuals, they are really with a lack of protection, legal protection. If you think like exaggerating, just think about the Shell case or the Shell in the Niger River. or even in other cases such as Philip Morris and Uruguay. Other objective is to put some kind of common ground for the work of transnational corporations, especially. I said in the morning or in the afternoon today that one of the main problems is that as we have no common standard in order to be fulfilled by companies regarding human rights, all of them act and behave in the way they think is right. What is the result? That some have took advantage of this, and the ones who have made more profit are those who don't respect human rights or labor rights or environmental rights. So the idea should be to have a common standard for everyone in order to allow everyone to have a clear idea of what they must comply and what they are obliged to fulfill. And there are, in a very grosso modo way, the main topic that they say about the purpose. Now, your second question was about what is the coming session, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, now what we're planning is, I tell it to some of you in the afternoon, our plan is to continue working in the production of a document of Panelists, which will be used as the basis for the substantive negotiations that will begin on the third session. We are still working on that. We are still trying to assemble a lot of ideas we have. We are still in the process of production of this document. And for this document, we have used the discussions that we had during the two first sessions, the contributions that we received for the two first sessions. And in the afternoon, I forgot to say that we have been participating in around 200, and I'm not exaggerating, 200 or more events, panel discussions, debates, bilateral consultations, regional consultations, which have produced a lot of ideas, a lot of comments, a lot of criticism as well, in order to work on this document. So what we are doing in this moment is crafting this document, and hopefully we will be able to deliver something in the coming months.
Thanks very much. Just one kind of additional point. You've mentioned the difficulties and the aims. To what extent is there a disconnect between some governments and others in their whole approach to this? Are you finding difficulty in getting consensus across all states?
Well, that's a very, very good question, because I have spoken with many of you. Some of you have really brilliant ideas in order to how to solve the problems, the challenges we have. But we are facing a political issue, and that is a reality. I think in the human rights council, everything is political. There's a really small percentage of the content, which is either legal or any kind of other issue. But it is 99% political. I'm sorry to say that, but it's the reality as I see that. What are the challenges? The challenges are basically the different issues we have in this process. For some countries, legally binding instrument is needed. For others, not binding standards are already good enough in order to control transnational corporations. So this is the first challenge that we have, and that we are still facing, because some countries have said clearly that for them the United Nations guiding principles are more than enough in order to deal with the issue of corporations or business and human rights. For others, this is not the case. And when I listen to the argument on behalf of the non-binding regulations or standards, I just put the question. I say, well, if they are so reliable, let's put all the tax system under non-binding rules. And let's see who pays the tax. Of course, nobody will take that risk. That is the reality as well. But in any case, those two visions, those two ways of thinking are in this moment the ones which are that we need to solve to have a consensual solution. Another situation is that politically, some have said that Ecuador has a political determination to kill the should be, or perhaps will be, a non-binding regulation. If countries think that is the option, I think that at the end of the day, nobody can force anybody to change their mind. That is something that comes not from a legal point of view, but from a political, diplomatic point of view. Nobody can push anybody to do something that is against their will. And that's how it works in international relations. The problem I see is that some countries have not yet understood the scope of the process that we are working on. And that is a big problem because I have seen that delegates, well, they do their best, but they are not necessarily well informed about what is going on. And some have the fear that if they engage with this process of the legally binding instrument, they will suffer with investment, with technical cooperation, or with other kinds of commercial profits. This is something that happened before the implementation. We received many comments from different colleagues, diplomats from some countries, developing countries, who told us, look, your idea is good, but unfortunately, my capital told me that we wouldn't like to have any kind of risk regarding investment, trade, and technical cooperation coming from the developed country. That was unfortunately a tactical strategy that we knew because some were very sincere with us and told us that. Now I think things have changed. I think that even the European Union is thinking seriously in how to engage constructively in this process. I was last week in the European Parliament, and I was really surprised, positively surprised, on how the European Parliament is looking at this process. They are very, very well aware of what is going on, and they are suggesting the European Union, the Commission, to take actions in order to engage in the process. Of course, the European Parliament has not the power to oblige the Commission to participate, but I think that at some point, the political pressure of the European Parliament will be strong enough in order to let the European Commission to think seriously and to reflect on how to engage in the process.
Okay, thanks very much, Lewis. I'm going to put you on kind of hold, if you like, for a moment and have some of the other speakers engage. I'm hoping you can hear what's going on. If for any reason you can't, either wave and then...
We said yes.
Okay, great. We'll see where we go. Thank you. Carlos.
Why don't we have the public to ask?
Sorry?
Why don't we have the public to
I'm just going to ask you one. Well, you want that? I do. One of which is that the ICJ has come up with a very clear plan about what the treaty could include, and part of that includes supervisory mechanisms. Before you get on to that, can you go back a stage and tell me what extent you think that national legislation, there's been a whole lot of national legislation, particularly more recently France and elsewhere, and likely one in Switzerland. How much do you think that's important for the likely take-up of any treaty?
Yeah, you're referring to the French law on the one of the details, the diligence. Well, that's one kind of legislation that focuses on one particular kind of measure that a company should put in practice. But there are many other things. Of course, no, we believe in the ICJ that the treaty, the added value of this treaty will be in the area of accountability and remedies and access to justice. I've explained that concept already several times. And in this fund now here, I invite you to look at our proposals that are available in our website, but there are many others as well in the official website of the working group that you can look at. But state practice is important. And for that reason, any progress that is made now or is going to be made in the future in the implementation of the guiding principle or any other instrument that is there, we have the Council of Europe recommendations, we have the European Union, different directives and instruments, any progress in terms of state practice that occurs will be more positive because they will build practice, real, concrete examples of what is feasible, what is not. The recent French law on due diligence, it's very important because it shows how far in a given legal system of an industrialized country and a democracy, rule of law-based country, we can go with this kind of measures. So the due diligence is no panacea. The Constitutional Court of France has said cannot, through this, achieve a sanctionatory regime and give remedies to this, especially and above all, a preventative instrument. So the sanction part of that proposal was taken away, basically, and still the obligation of companies to adopt measures to prevent and detect risk and prevent mitigate risk is there. So I think that's an important achievement. If we continue like that, and we have a Dutch draft a law on due diligence in the supply chain relation to child labor. If that's adopted, will be another positive development, and we have to continue like that. So please, if anybody believes that the ICJ or the others are just sitting and waiting that the treaty happens, that's not the case. No?
Thank you. I mean, you touched on obviously a key issue, which is of course access to remedies. Elodie, what supervisory mechanism do you think is the best way forward to try and actually enable access to remedies?
So for us, from what we've been hearing, is really a mechanism that would fulfill the effectiveness criteria that are set out in the UN Guiding Principles. But with conversations with various organizations and the civil society, we also hear them saying that the emphasis should be on local mechanisms, not only on international ones, because in terms of access, for affected people, it's much better, especially for the language, but also in terms of costs. And what we've been hearing is, I mean, there are a lot of options available, but the main ones, for instance, is a call at the second session of the intergovernmental working group about an international tribunal that would investigate and also enforce the treaty provisions. So people who are in favor of that mechanism are saying that it's a possibility to overcome the obstacles that you can face in some countries because of the dysfunction of the judiciary. But there's also the discussion of the place of non-judicial mechanisms. Some people are proposing that there is something similar to the current treaty bodies, a mechanism that accepts complaints, gives general recommendations, and also interprets the clauses of the treaty. The only downside with that is that it's not legally binding, their decisions. So at the moment, what we see in terms of consensus is more like there are the non-judicial mechanisms, but they should exist with more like judicial mechanism for legally binding decisions.
Thank you. What about you, Rae? What do you think about some of the potential supervisory mechanisms?
I think the potential supervisory mechanisms depend on what you have in terms of the creation of substantive rights, and therefore how you would create access to remedy and where, and therefore what the appropriate level of supervision would be and whether it would be domestic or international. And again, it depends on whether the obligation would be placed on states who then pass them through to corporations or directly onto corporations. And I think that the swell of expectation is that it would be the former. I think that this area is where there's a lot of scope for sort of imaginative work around, where are the gaps and how do we effectively fill them, bearing in mind, the kind of human rights abuses that we're thinking about and what's in the best interest of the victim to achieve appropriate remedy. And Elodie said, in that context, there's a lot of favour and benefits for local remedies, but we all know that that's one of the great challenges in this area is ensuring that there is access to a local effective remedy. And so one of the questions would be, how do you, and this again is where the CHR has done some work, what are the barriers and how can there be collaboration and cooperation between states to improve capacity, to identify what those challenges are, and to try and facilitate access to judicial remedy in appropriate cases on an even basis everywhere. And I think what Louise said about the objectives of the treaty, which would be common standards and access to victims to remedies, nobody could possibly contest that that would be a good thing. And there's nothing that anybody in this area would like more than a commonality of standards, a level playing field, and to know how to operate and what the consequences would be, and that there would be an even approach to enforcement everywhere that you are. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. And so until we start to define what do we mean by common standards, how will they work, what are the expectations, and can we be assured that actually they will be implemented and enforced across the globe by every party to a treaty, and then we've still got a long way to go.
And what's your view on the idea of an international arbitration?
My understanding is that those who were previously talking about an international arbitration body have moved away from that and aren't in favour of a specific body, but actually an adaptation to the rules surrounding international arbitrations to ensure that current frameworks can be used but adapted to best be suited to resolving issues concerning human rights abuses, and also thinking about having appropriately trained arbitrators to hear those disputes. I think that I doubt that arbitration is going to be, I think it's a good thing to have in the toolbox, but it is designed for largely commercial disputes in favour of companies. And so lots of the criticisms that arise in relation to arbitration as a dispute resolution mechanism would possibly be exacerbated in this area. Another thing is, how do you make it work in favour of third parties to whom one of the issues that many people want to have addressed is the absence of an enforceable duty. And if arbitration arises generally within a contractual context, just how feasibly are you going to make it attractive to companies and make it workable to actually have that arbitration mechanism operate in a way that gives third-party victims rights in a way that would work for everybody that's involved in that system.
Thank you, that's helpful. Now, I think I might ask some questions now on the basis that then we can bring in Lewis again. I'll grab a series of questions and then do our best to answer them to whoever's there. Yeah, if you could identify, the microphone coming, if you could identify yourself and just before you do, Lewis, are you able to hear these questions?
Right, can you hear me?
Lewis, can you hear these questions?
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. My name is Clifford Chance and I'm a lecturer at the City Law School here in London. So my question is to Lewis, really. Considering the recent report by the International Law Commission on crimes against humanity and the clause that appeared there, which is in preparation for the draft Convention on Crimes Against Humanity, which includes the requirement placed on states to criminalize violations by legal persons of the obligations of the Convention. How likely do you think that such a clause could appear in this text that you're preparing, and the text that will eventually be agreed? And how desirable do you think that such a clause would be?
Thank you. Just in front of you.
John Christian, King's College London. Two questions. One is about the assumption that if we have a legally binding treaty, this will increase effectiveness or enhance compliance. I mean, that's not a question which lawyers are in any sense experts. It's a social science question. And the best social scientific research, people like Beth Simmons, who's optimistic, says that it's only a very narrow band of states that actually enhance their human rights record in virtue of the legally binding treaty. So why should we buy into the assumption that there'll be this payoff in terms of compliance simply from the formal fact of legal validity. That's question one. The second question is a question about sequencing that Ruggie has really emphasized. Ruggie says if you look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, many states, like the United Kingdom, would never have signed up to it if it were legally binding. Right? So in order to get their buy-in, it had to be a declaratory instrument. 20 years on, you could have a legally binding instrument. So it's a matter of sequencing. In order to bring about the requisite shift in human rights culture and thinking, you needed to have an instrument that wasn't initially legally binding. Now, it seems to me his claim is, even if you think that ultimately the ideal situation is one in which you have a legally binding instrument, the way to begin now is with the principles and then in time build on that in the same sort of sequencing precedent set by the Universal Declaration.
Okay, Cameron.
Thanks. Young Kadim, Joseph Higgins, and I'm an international arbitration lawyer. I was going to raise the Ruggie point. Basically, Ruggie advocated against the legally binding instrument. His recommendation was these principles. But I have a conceptual problem because I just want to know, I want to be convinced, because I'm not entirely convinced, quite apart from the fact that we have many treaties, many of which are ineffective at least from a point of view of remedies. What is the purpose of this treaty? The fact is, I'm quite aligned with what Rae said on some aspects, is that we need to look behind this and see what is the purpose, who are the obligations on. The obligations are on states, they can only be on states. Now there's two issues. There's a question of direct attribution of responsibility to states for actions committed by their subjects on their territory, which is one issue. And then the other issue, which is the big issue that Louis pointed out, which is how does such a treaty deal with the extraterritorial attribution of responsibility, the responsibility for the lack of due diligence that it does? How can you equally apply this across the board to countries that may vary in how they deal with such things? Nigeria, completely different to Canada, for instance. How is a treaty actually going to regulate that extraterritorial factor? How are you going to enforce these remedies? From a point of view of arbitration, I looked at this for enforcement under investment treaties by a tribunal of not of human rights, but of the right to protect cultural heritage. And there is a potential within those claims, investment claims, let's say, where a tribunal chosen by the investor and the state can sua sponte deal with these issues, but you can't rely on that, and that's ancillary, and that's always in relation to an investment. How do you deal with this under a treaty that's properly directed to this issue?
Thank you. Take one right at the back, and then I'll stop there and then take some more questions afterwards. Could you put your hand up, Windows?
Thank you for your presentation. My name is Elodie. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Oslo. I have two very short questions. The first one is on fragmentation and whether we want to have another treaty which is specific on certain duty bearers, because in the end this is the case, or whether instead we want to rely on existing sources. I, for example, advocate for the use of general principles of law, which is a source that is near to the companies than treaty or custom. The second question is on the role of the regional systems, whether you envisage any role for these systems. I'm referring, for example, at Malabo Protocol, corporate criminal liability that is being discussed there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, what I'll do is I'll put to Lewis the ones which I feel he has to answer, and then we'll go. Lewis, are you with us? Hello.
It's the mute of his computer, not his phone.
Can you hear me? Hello? 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 Lewis? Okay. I'm going to try and I'm not sure you heard those questions. I'll summarize them for you. The first.
The question of the gentleman who made two questions. The second one about sequencing, and the third one I really didn't get because it was not so clear in the computer.
It's right, you don't need to answer that one. Just answer the second one. I'll get the others to answer that. So you could answer that one, and also you could answer the first question, which you may not have heard, which referred to the report by the ILC on crimes against humanity, and a requirement that it could extend to all legal persons, whether that's either likely or desirable to be in the treaty. So they're the two questions that you could answer. Please.
Okay. Look, this question is pertinent because what we are looking now for is for elements or tools or precedents that may help us in our work. At the end of the day, it will not be the choice of Ecuador to decide what are the right ways to use in a treaty. For me, this report that the lady who made the question raised is one of the documents that we can use in order to provide us with some ideas. It's not the only one. I think that Professor Scooter has also provided us with some different elements regarding how to deal with this topic of transnational crimes and to try to adapt the kind of concept to our work. So those are the kind of things, the kind of tools that we are using now. Now, could it be reached or is it desirable? That is really beyond my current position or my current knowledge, because first it will depend on the parties how they are going to contribute to the process. So from the perspective of Ecuador, I think that all of these elements are quite useful and they are needed in order to be used as possible tools in order to construct the proposal for legally binding instruments. If they are useful in other processes, I think that they can be also used in our process.
Thank you very much. What about in relation to the other question which you heard?
Sequence.
Oh, yes,
About sequencing.
I can provide a very short answer to all the questions if you want. The first one of the second person I really didn't get. The second one was about sequencing. Why not to let the guiding principles time to be implemented? That is a very that is one of the arguments that we have heard from the very beginning of our project. And fortunately, nobody is using the argument anymore because now we are in a different track. We are working on a different track. And why we think that both ways are not necessarily contradictory. They can be mutually beneficial. The first good effect for the guiding principles is that coming from the legally binding instrument is that now everybody is paying attention to the issue and everybody is paying attention to the guiding principles. The main problem is that if you are using voluntary and non-binding rules, you need the political will in order to have countries engaged in the process. If you check at the list of countries who have already produced a national plan of action, you have like 10 or 12, no more than that. And I was listening in the afternoon, and unfortunately, the quality of the national action plan is very poor. And that is not me who is saying, because I'm not judge of the national action plan, but it reflects what is the kind of political interest that countries have regarding the guiding principles. Any non-binding standard is not only about the guiding principles. Then we can come to other questions, say, well, we have a lot of treaties and who is going to implement them? And that is also the right question, because it will depend on countries to have political will to do it. And in this respect, it will depend on the quality of the treaty. You have treaties which are really have a good kind of quality, and then states are eager to fulfill the regulations. It will depend a lot on the quality, but more than that, it will depend on the political will. That is the challenge. I agree with you that it's not an easy task. countries and states are really expert in avoiding obligations, and that is not a lie. We see every day the results. But we hope that if more countries are engaged in the process, I think that they will bring also others to the process.
Thank you. I'm going to stop you there, so I can get some of the other respondents, and then you can come back here. Okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Elodie, what's your response to the various questions? In particular, choose one. I mean, what about the issue about Ruggie says he doesn't want a legally binding treaty? How would you respond?
So for us, really the argument we hear is that if it's not legally binding, there's less incentive for people to follow it. So there are some companies and some governments that have started to implement the guiding principles, but they're really the minority. And for instance, for companies that are like big groups, what about smaller companies, at just domestic level, really? So that's the issue we've heard. If there is like the threat of a sanction, you would be more likely to do something.
Thank you. There was a question about extraterritorial jurisdiction. Can I just put a correction? I think a better terminology is transnational jurisdiction. Why? Because extraterritorial automatically assumes it's difficult. It's against transnational corporations, transnational jurisdiction. Strikes me as a kind of a better terminology to use. Anyway, that's my little insight. Rae, what's your view on this kind of transnational jurisdiction?
I mean, that's obviously one of the more controversial aspects of the potential treaty. It's one where I think that it evokes, everybody thinks they know what they're talking about when they talk about extraterritorial jurisdiction or regulation, but they seem to then talk about different things. So I think it's important to get back to the starting point of what jurisdiction is under international law, when you're entitled to exercise jurisdiction, and when extraterritorial regulation may have effects beyond your boundaries, but that may still be a territorial exercise jurisdiction over a company. I think if you unpack it that way and build on it, a lot of it is actually not as new or controversial or scary as a lot of people think. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in that space. A lot of work was done by John Ruggie's team in support of the mandate, and I think if we go back and look at that in the context of what's being talked about now, there was a lot of learning around. I think it's framed perfectly within the guiding principles, and you can build on that in an appropriate way if there's agreement. On the sequencing issue, I completely agree that we now have a working group that's been established, particularly with the mandate to develop a treaty. So it seems to me that in that context, you engage with the discussion and look at what's on the table and think about what is likely has the potential to work or not. There's a big difference, though, between are we talking about regulating corporate behaviour in terms of mandatory due diligence with civil consequences, or are we going to mandate corporate reporting, or are we going to create crimes for gross human rights abuses? And it's very ambitious to think about incorporating all of that into one instrument that would gain a lot of international traction and support. I'm against re-articulating obligations and duties that already exist elsewhere. As I said at the beginning, I think it's important to identify where the gaps are and come up with a coherent purpose behind this, and then talk about what the options might be in that space.
Thank you. That's very helpful, particularly on your point about a lot of this is within the state's jurisdiction. Not actually extra jurisdiction. Thank you. Tell us, what about the questions which are asked about fragmentation and the sense to which there are already existing treaties out there, and an idea would be some kind of notion of a general principles idea, and using some of the regional bodies. Thank you.
So there are other treaties that containing obligations in relation to transnational corporations. I don't think there are. At least I don't see them. There are human rights treaties of general applicability addressed to the states, and the obligations are not fine-tuned enough to provide, for instance, to legal liability of corporations, whether criminal or administrative. There is only one human rights treaty that I know, which is the optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, on the sale of children and child pornography. Article 3 of which provides for legal liability of legal entities. There is no other one at the universal level. There is a gap there. The lady is asking about criminal liability. We are following that process in the International Law Commission. We are in dialogue with the commissioners and the commission, and we have seminars together with others as well. We are aware of that, and I think it will be very positive. And actually, that's one of the things we are trying to include in the new treaty, this treaty that we are discussing today. If everything goes well, some provisions in relation to criminal liability for corporations will be there. Or for what kind of offenses, this is something that we will have to discuss. Our proposal first go beyond crimes against humanity, cover a number of other offenses, international recognized, of course. But that's not the only contribution of this treaty in terms of legal liability and accountability. I think we have to tackle also the obstacles that are in the way of obtaining civil remedies. No, that goes through the question of civil liability, facilitating access to court, and other issues related to that, including jurisdiction, etc. And then I think, may I address the question of sequencing? If I may. Yeah, you're right. I think I agree with you, but that's exactly what's happening now. We have the guiding principles, and no, I correct myself because in 2008 we have the framework. And the framework is the foundation of everything. It's the foundation of the guiding principles. Because the guiding principles, the full title says to operationalize the respect and remedy a framework that was adopted already in 2008. So I think we have already, a long track record of working with soft law instruments, so the declaratory or recommendatory instruments in this area. And it was just our time really, that we start the process towards a legally binding instrument. That's exactly what's happening now. Not only the declaration, the Universal Declaration, is many others. I mean, we had the Convention Against Torture many years after we had a declaration against torture in the United Nations. The same on discrimination against women, and the same on the question of disappearances, and the same in many other areas, on rights of the child as well. You're right, you start with the soft law instruments, with declarations and declaratory instruments, but the way we move to that, that's exactly what's happening.
And if I could just add, sometimes happens very quickly. The Convention on the Rights of Disabled People very rapidly into a treaty and widely ratified. I also just want to add a point about international criminal law. Have to be careful about putting too much emphasis on the criminal aspect of this, because actually most human rights don't necessarily fall into being criminal. So we have to be careful not to lead in this area. Okay, we'll take another series of questions. Oh, gosh, lots. Okay, let's take about 5 then, starting over on the left.
Thank you so much for the interesting panel and kudos to the moderator who has been challenges. My name is Maria Zudrzeska. I'm a doctor of international at the George Washington University Law School. I have 2 questions. Given the fact that in the recent years, states are not necessarily as enthusiastic about adopting treaties, what's creating a treaty actually creates 2 folds. Countries, states that actually adopted the treaty and states that did not adopt the treaty, and that's enabled the forum shopping of specific companies. And the second point is, how is nationality of the companies actually defined? I don't see the extraterritoriality, transnationality debate the issue to be jurisdiction, but nationality. If you have a company which is based in one state but operates perhaps in another state, then they can just move to headquarters. But on the other hand, if you have nationality of the company defined in international law, it's not the same as those defined in national law. So the definition of nationality of the corporation in the treaty will actually represent the fractional versus non-fraction case, for example, like nationality of corporations on the international level, or will it follow nationality of the companies on the domestic level? And will that not only complicate things? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go straight down the aisle? Thanks, sir.
Adrian Mongo, this lawyers for better business. I just wanted to give a quick
comment on what Rae was saying about the current state of the arbitration tribunal proposal. I convened the group that has been working on this proposal in 2014, and we are at a stage now, Rae's quite correct, that we have deliberately moved from conceiving it as a tribunal to a set of rules. The reasons for that are in the latest version of our proposal, and I hope people are interested enough they can read it and see that. But really, the aim is to make the rules, first of all, as flexible as possible, and secondly, to make sure they fill gaps. So where we are at the moment is doing a mapping exercise to see precisely what gaps need filling. When those are done, the hope is that we can put together a panel respected by all the parties who need to be involved to help work out the rules that we needed that can then be adopted wherever that people want them to be adopted. The other thing is a lot of questions that Rae asked about third-party rights, about how to make companies persuade them to come to the table. We're addressing those at the moment in a very comprehensive question and answer paper, which we hope to be publishing soon. And I would assume that the Business and Human Rights Resources Centre will flag that up when it's ready, which, as I say, I hope will be soon, not before too long. There will be other versions of it available elsewhere too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. That's very helpful. If you could move ahead a couple of rows. Thanks, Kate.
Hi. To begin with, thanks for the very interesting panel. I'm Ginevra Vigilant, just a recent law graduate from Queen Mary University of London with an interest in business and human rights. In terms of making human rights obligations binding, or a treaty possibly binding on transnational corporations, we talked about the obstacles that there are involving corporations in the dialogue leading to the treaty. I don't want to throw into doubt the work of the working group, obviously, but I was wondering, wouldn't it be more useful to frame the discussion in terms of corporate governance, and so involve in the discussion inviting CEOs and leaders of corporations, and also take the chance to involve also investors that are other stakeholders that can put a lot of pressure on corporations. Because what I see is that probably the term itself, business and human rights, it's quite, it gets leaders and corporations defensive. So yeah, I was wondering if probably it would be useful to focus our energies on that instead. I'm talking, for instance, I'm thinking about the EU Non-Financial Reporting Directive, for instance.
Thank you. Thank you. Now there's someone over here, yes, back corner. Sorry.
My name is Ashton Bennett, I'm the training solicitor. My question is about the treaty process itself. So the vote that actually adopted the resolution setting up the working group and establishing its mandate, it was quite a split vote in that there was only 20 votes for, 14 against, and 13 abstentions. My question to the panel is, how do you think that kind of split, particularly on those abstaining for those that were against the establishment of the working group, and indeed a treaty at all included EU member states and the United States, huge players within this? How do you think that might affect, first of all, the drafting process, getting a workable draft that will be widely ratified, and then of course the ratification process then again, how do you think that kind of friction will impact the actual treaty process?
Okay, thank you. There's somebody else who's put their hand up. Oh yes, back down there, sorry. And then that will be the questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maris. I'm Monica Vargas from the Transnational Institute. This is a question for Luis. Luis, knowing that the fact that affected communities like TNCs are also very interested in this process, and also aiming to participate and to give inputs, etc. What would be the advancement regarding the shared responsibility when we talk about the mining treaty, the shared responsibility not only to CEOs but also to the full supply chain? We could develop a little bit on that. What are the yeah, the debates you're having inside the working group, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to start with Lewis again. Lewis, did you hear any of those questions? Hello, Lewis. Hi, Lewis. Hi. Did you hear most of those questions?
Not all of them were clear.
Okay.
I listened to that one, for example, it was clear.
Okay.
Well, if you tell me which one,
Okay.
which one to answer.
Thank you. I'd like you to answer the last one from Monica and an earlier one which asked about the difficulty of the treaty process in terms that the voting in the Human Rights Council was very much split in terms of even setting up the open working group, whether that might cause difficulty when it comes to ratification. If you could answer those two, would be excellent. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Well, I will begin with the last one, the shared responsibility. We have heard comments about this, we have heard proposals about this, and this was mentioned during the first session, and I think that the trend goes in that direction. I mean, responsibility would not be only for the company, but also for those who are responsible for the company. That is the trend. Now, what will be the final product? That is still, when you need to wait until you have something concrete regarding the starting negotiations in the third session. But I have heard that this is something that a lot of delegations are asking for. Actually, if you ask me about the Ecuadorian position in our internal law, in our penal code, we do have what you are saying with this shared responsibility. Legal persons are responsible for civil, administrative, civil, and criminal acts, and those who are the owners or the shareholders have their part of responsibility. Well, it's just to give you an example that is the Ecuadorian perspective. But in this moment, we are not only talking about the Ecuadorian perspective, but we need to listen to other voices as well. Now, regarding the involvement of corporations in the process, I can tell the person who asked about this, we are really attached to the rules of the game in the Human Rights Council, and the rules of the game say that those who are not states and have consultative status to the ECOSOC are allowed to participate in this kind of working groups. So this is the rule that we are applying. It's not an Ecuadorian rule. It is a rule that comes from the Human Rights Council and the United Nations system. So in this way, we have had a very active participation coming from the International Organization of Employers, which is the employers or the private bodies in the ILO. So in our understanding, this is one of the most authorized voices representing the private sector. I understand well that last year the International Chamber of Commerce acquired the ECOSOC status, so they will for sure be participating in the next session. That is something that we think will happen. Now, when on CEOs or other actors, we have invited people to come, but at this moment they are still waiting to see what is going on. Actually, they are very cautious about that. So we have had dialogue, bilateral dialogue, and to tell you the truth, 90% of the dialogue have been positive because we have seen that what they want is to have clear rules for everyone. That is the key requirement for the private sector, to apply the same rules for everyone. So not to allow some guys to take advantage of the lack of regulations that it happens today.
Great, thank you very much, Lewis. Actually, if I could just add in an interesting side note on that. The Joint Parliamentary Committee on Human Rights, the UK one, has produced a report fairly recently in which they talk about things like a duty to prevent and the sense to which there should be access to remedy. But part of that was based on witness statements from companies saying actually they wanted more regulation and clarity in the regulation. So it's interesting that's come through. Now, the rest of the panel, picking up actually maybe the first point about sort of treaty and forum shopping. Rae, do you think that's really a likely problem, that there could be a forum shopping by states to kind of get themselves out of adopting a treaty?
I don't understand.
Okay, my understanding of the question was that rather that the states will choose which treaty they want to ratify or not. Oh, sorry.
I thought it was only some states would be parties, and so therefore countries could decide where to go because they might be caught or not.
Thank you.
I think that's the most likely outcome if there's a treaty at all. I mean, I just don't think that a widely accepted, widely scoped treaty is going to gain any kind of international consensus anytime soon. I doubt that any treaty will get off the ground. If it does, it will just be a handful of states, and so it will have very limited impact and certainly won't achieve any of the good objectives that it's purported to be trying to address. I think that one of the good things about it is it is stirring up a lot of debate around issues that really need some closer examination to identify where the gaps are and what we can actually do about them. I think we should also be just looking at, because there is quite a lot of state activity in a variety of areas from which you can identify regulatory and policy trends. And I would have thought you should be looking at those to see whether there's some kind of international consensus, thinking about whether they actually work. They probably don't do enough on the access to remedy side, but in terms of where are states going in the expectations of companies and what's expected in terms of due diligence and transparency and reporting, is reporting effective in generating change in corporate behaviour? All of those are things that can usefully be looked at, and it's where there might be some convergence in the future. But I think for the reason I just said, yes, that is it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And Carlos, what about the issue about nationality of companies? Do you think that's a core issue which needs to be clarified by the treaty?
I have to confess that area is not my specialization, but I suppose the treaty will have some criteria to determine not the nationality, the race of side, for instance, or resident, etc. But I think nationality is not the only ground for jurisdiction on national corporation. In the US and even in the UK, I was surprised to see the Bribery Act. I think that it gives jurisdiction to UK courts over corporations or businesses that have substantive activities. Yes, I was surprised to see.
The terminology is often domicile rather than nationality. The domicile is include, but also corporation, but will also include substantial activity.
So I thought it was just an advocacy point of many NGOs, but I see that in legislation in many countries now. So I think that gives already a very good basis for making progress. The question of foreign shopping, that's the situation today. I think it's, some forums are more propitious for litigation, others not. The victims or people that are affected negatively by operations of companies have to go from forum to other forums to see which one is going to take the claim, and which one is going to provide justice. So I don't see that's really a big problem, but probably will continue to be the same case with the new treaty. But that's the reality of things.
Thank you. Elodie, I'm going to leave the last question to you, which was the question about, should we be using this language of business and human rights? Should there be some other way we should be talking about this? What's your kind of understanding from the material you've seen?
So for us, we noticed that there's always a barrier with language. So with some countries and some companies, if you talk about human rights, they think it's really a big thing. But then when you explain to them, for instance, about discrimination or torture, etc., that things you have policies, but if you don't do that, then it goes better for them. And for some countries, for instance, for China, the terms corporate social responsibility is preferred to human rights because human rights are too controversial to talk about. So I would say if we really want to be specific for the treaty, it should still be called business and human rights because that's really what we want to achieve. But then when you want to raise the issue with some stakeholders that maybe are hesitant, and you can start with certain important CSR and then explain how it's with human rights.
And I'll go further to say that to also explain CSR is not the same as human rights. CSR, of course, is based on company risk, whereas the whole notion of development of the guiding principles is on the basis of the risk to the stakeholder, the person who's going to have an impact by the company. So very careful to make those two areas distinct. I think we probably covered enough. Sorry,
something in relation to the question like the lady on the political issue, political support. Maybe it's linked also to someone who asked about appetite for treaties and the international community. Well, it is true. Depends on which global country you're talking about. It is true that the Western countries don't have a huge appetite for treaties now. Depends also what kind of treaties. We have the Convention on Climate Change recently. That was promoted by France and many other European countries. Depends on which treaty and which subject. And it depends on which group of countries. I don't represent a country in the States, so I cannot speak by them. But I speak for an organization that has more than 60 years working on the promotion of human rights and the rule of law globally. And we have participated in the inception, the development, and the negotiation of most human rights treaties. So we have some experience about treaty making. Yeah. And it's not extraordinary that there is only a small group of countries at the beginning promoting an initiative, whether it is a treaty or a declaration or any other. That's the way you build consensus, convincing others and having support. And that happens in all instances.
That leads me back to the end, and I'll finish before I thank the panel with a quotation from Nelson Mandela. Negotiation and discussion are the greatest weapons we have for promoting peace and development. So hopefully that's a way forward. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience with technology. Particular thanks to Notre Dame for all their efforts in this, and Roger and Doug. And I think we should give the panel, including Lewis, our warmest thanks. Thank you.